The Economy of Living Things is an exhibition that brings together the practices of 4 different artists to really think about these artists together, to think of them in relation to one another and also as a collective. And it's organized into certain sort of thematic clusters that enable us to better understand what we mean when we talk about the economy of living things as a conceptual idea that brings the exhibition together. The main challenges of a space like Maba is that you have separate rooms which are connected by a single corridor. When it came to placing these works in relation to one another, one of the big ideas that we thought could be useful in terms of articulating the series of satellites is the idea of the moving image. So to use a series of temporary screens, of fixed screens, either floating in midair or fixed to the floor, that would enable people to encounter the works as impressions but also objects. The point of doing that was to assert the notion that reality itself was not fixed and that history itself was a form of a moving image. So in the first room you have the work of Ali Cherri that is dealing really with the violence of archaeology, the way in which objects get passed through different hands, through different histories, into different institutions, and whether these objects themselves hold a kind of psychological power or indeed possess a cultural memory. The second theme of the exhibition is very much rooted in the politics of migration. It focuses on the Colombian-British artist Oscar Murillo and his relationship to the Colombina factory in La Paila. It complicates the notion of what it means to have agency within a labour environment such as a factory, form a direct relationship to forms of mass production and the relationship between the concept of mass production and cultural production. The third theme of the exhibition is rooted in the idea of how religion, particularly religion in the African American church, and specifically in the practice of mime as it's practiced by the Reverend Susan Webb and the Mime Ministry of Harlem, really conceptualized by Steffani Jemison in the work Sensus Pleniere as a work that looks at the complexities of gesture in relation to divinity and the way in which faith allows us to understand language differently and express ourselves differently. In the center room of the exhibition, you have a kind of sculptural installation that places a relationship between the work of Oscar Murillo, a large painting called Entitled, produced this year, and a series of abstract works by the artist Steffani Jemison, which draw both on the broader themes of religion, divinity, and language. The final room of the exhibition centers on the work of Jumana Manna, an artist born in America and based between Palestine and Berlin. She herself has a very complex way of narrating political themes, and in this work chooses to focus on the idea of seed banking, particularly the transactions and actions of the global seed vault in Svalbard, Norway, and the political implications of seed banking on the broader Levant region. What I will say about working on this series of satellites, it's been an incredibly rewarding and fascinating opportunity to really delve into artist practices, to work within the complexities of commissioning new work, And one of the things that we tried very hard to do this year is create dialogues between the artists so that the works are not thought of in isolation, but the artists are in constant dialogue with each other around the issues that are of interest to the exhibition.